before I begin, I'd just like to give a quick plug to my organization. I work for the National Center for Appropriate Technology, which is also ATRA. And if you're involved in any kind of niche production, from fruits and vegetables, livestock production, we've got a lot of publications on that. They're all free. We're funded through the USDA. You can go online and find some of those publications. And I have my card here, so if you guys are looking for the online contact information, I can give that to you. And also, we have a hotline, so if you have any kind of question on production marketing for alternative type systems, we've got specialists, one of them namely Dr. Pete Lammers, who can answer those questions. So without further ado, let's get going. So the title of my presentation is Moving Forward in Marketing, and that's kind of a throwaway title. I didn't know what to call it, so I'm going to call it this. And the agenda today, I'm going to go over some basics because I want everybody to know where I'm coming from. And it's basically talking about how do we measure a business, that kind of a thing. I'm also going to talk about what the basic conflict in marketing is, one of the most basic conflicts, what we constantly feel like we have to choose between. I'm going to talk about basic philosophy of marketing, what that means. I'm going to talk about market segmentation, which is a little bit of the how-to in marketing. And then I'm going to tie all together, talk a little bit about creating win-win scenarios for both customers and then for yourself as a marketer. Measurement of the goal. What's the goal of a business? Make money? I love it, right? Yeah, you guys are actually pretty smart. Sometimes I ask that question. People are like, oh, well, I really want to produce hogs, or I want to grow fruits and vegetables. We want to make money, right? That's at least a big part of it. Not everything. Money's not everything, but it's definitely a big part of what we want to do. So how do we measure that goal, right? Wise man once said, show me how you measure me, I'll show you how I'll behave, right? Okay. So what's the goal? 3 things. Net income, return on investment, cash flow, right? So like, is that profound? Is that brilliant? Pretty obvious, right? All right. So everything we want to do is geared toward net income, return on investment, and cash flow, all right? So how do we do that, right? So it's great to say, net income is important, right? Great, right? So I guess I can go home now? Nobody knew that? No? All right, so we want to know, okay, what can I do on the farm level, or what can I do on the business level in order to improve those types of things, right? And one of the ways we can look at it is throughput, sales minus unit variable costs. We know what sales are, right? What are unit variable costs? Unit variable costs are costs that can be tied directly to a unit of production. For pork, that would be something like feed costs, right? All right? 7% of a hog is feed, give or take, depending on the system, depending on this, that, the other thing. Right? Okay. Inventory and investment, right? So, inventory is cash basically tied up in your system, right? Corn, feed in general, inputs maybe if I'm an integrated type system, hogs that I haven't sold yet, right? That hog doesn't become production until I get paid for it, right? Maybe it's 3 months later, maybe it's 6 months later, maybe it's never, right? So, unless I get paid for it, it doesn't become throughput, it doesn't become sales, okay? Then, of course, investment might be something like buildings, land, all the things that we need, all the things that are tied up in the business, right? That we need to generate throughput, generate sales. All right? Okay. Pretty exciting stuff. And then operating expense, we know what operating expense is, right? All right? Blowing your mind yet? Not yet, huh? Okay, good. We'll get there. Okay, so, remember I said before, I want to know what I need to do on the farm level or in the business, day to day, in order to create results for a bottom line, right? Net income, return on investment, cash flow. Okay? Well, there's usually a relationship between these things. If I increase sales or throughput, usually it has a positive impact on net income, return on investment, and cash flow, holding all other things equal. What does that mean? It means my operating expense didn't go up and I didn't invest in $1 trillion worth of whatever in order to generate that additional throughput, right? Pretty obvious? Maybe not? Do you have questions? Okay. All right. Inventory investment. If my inventory goes down, that creates an improvement in my return on investment in my cash flow, right? So think about it. If I can liquidate some feed, I don't have to hold as much feed on farm, that immediately goes into my cash flow, right? And I'm also don't have cash tied up in that, right? So my investment that I have in my business goes down, but my return on investment, assuming that my sales stay the same, that creates a positive effect on return on investment and cash flow. And then, of course, income or operating expense, and there's a carrying cost component. I'm not going to get into that too much. It takes a little bit longer to explain. Of course, if we decrease our operating expense, which in agriculture, we're very, very focused on that. We love to do that, don't we? Usually, when we decrease our operating expense, we have a positive effect on net income, return on investment, and cash flow. Right? Okay. So there's a lot of squiggly lines there. What does that mean? Well, this is a marketing presentation, so this is not about production. This is, at least it's not really focused on production. This is focused on increasing throughput. It's focused on increasing sales, which perhaps I have a bias, but I do have a bias, but the evidence oftentimes points that increasing sales, increasing throughput, is what actually has the most impact on our bottom line. We cut our cost 5%, we get some of that on net income, return on investment, cash flow, right? If we increase our throughput by 5%, it has a much larger impact on our bottom line. And what do we know? Profits are good, right? By the way, did I forget anything? Besides net income, return on investment, cash flow, quality of life, maybe? I'm going to keep asking questions. So what's our conflict? Do we have a conflict in business? So we want to make more money in terms of net income, return on investment, and cash flow. I'm going to say that a lot, by the way. And we want to increase our prices, right? And why do we want to increase prices? Anybody? What's that?
Improve our margin.
Improve our margin, that's right. So what does that lead to? We make better margins. We increase prices. If we increase prices, then we make better margins. And that, of course, will result in more net income, return on investment, and cash flow. Right? So what, can I end the presentation now? All you have to do is increase prices. It's easy, right? Ha ha ha, yeah, people are laughing now, right? Okay, so it's not really that easy. Why is that? Well, we want to increase sales too, or at least we want to maintain sales. Right? And if we want to maintain sales, because we want to sell most of our production, right? If I increase my prices, I don't sell any hogs, then what does that do for me? Not a lot, right? So we're constantly forced to choose between lowering our prices, sell all of our production, or, if we increase prices, then we're afraid, and it's a very valid fear, that we won't sell all the hogs that we've got. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So I can't both increase sales and prices. Do people feel that way? Yes or no? Yes. People do feel that way, right? And that's actually no? You don't feel that way?
Go ahead.
No, okay. All right. So what are the assumptions, right? If I increase prices, I'll have less sales. Talked about that. If I lower prices, can't make good margins. Of course, it's desirable to sell all of my production. I want to sell 25% of it. I want to sell 5% of it. Sell all of it, or almost all of it, right? And of course, we know that an increase in prices will lead to better margins. And of course, higher margins equals better performance. Maybe. Of course, more sales equals better performance. We can't have both. And oftentimes we're compromising between both. Making sales, increasing prices, don't like my price, try to increase price, Lord said, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. I don't know what to do. Right? Common problem, especially in niche production when we're marketing directly to customers. We have that problem. Okay? So, understanding where a lot of us are coming from, and not just in agriculture, but in any business, I'm going to talk a little bit about a philosophy of marketing. And I'm not getting religious on you, but I always like to have one with my buddy St. Francis of Assisi. He says, "Grant that I seek not so much to be understood, but to understand. And to prove that I'm not getting religious, I have one from some business guru who wrote this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I never actually read it, but it's supposed to be good. He says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Of course, in marketing, what we're trying to do is understand customers. Right? We're trying to look at it from somebody else's point of view. Okay? So let's ask some questions. Is every customer the same? Yes or no? No. Anybody disagree? All right, we're not all the same. I'm not the same. So if every customer is not the same, what does that mean for us? Okay, you have to adapt? Yeah, sure. All right. So if every customer is not the same, what does it mean for us? So it means it's an opportunity. What kind of an opportunity does that present? If we're not all the same, then what? People have different perceptions of value, right? So my wife and I were shopping for a car right now, and my wife wants things in the car that I consider completely worthless. What does that mean? That's right. So my wife is willing to pay $1,000 more for something that I think is stupid. I don't tell her that, by the way, right? Because I know the likely result of that, right? If I tell my wife what she wants is stupid, she will become angry at me, right? So we don't like that. Okay. But certainly she's willing to pay more money for something that I don't. So we have different perceptions of value. The car is almost exactly the same, but she wants a CD. She likes a sunroof or something like that, right? She's willing to pay considerably more. And by the way, she's willing to pay more for that car than really how much it costs the car company to put a new sunroof in, right? Sunroof is $500, but they charge me $1,500 more for a freaking sunroof, right? I don't like that. Right, okay. So there are different perceptions of value out there. And the cause of that is different perceptions of value. So I already answered the question. So that's something that's called market segmentation. I mentioned that earlier when I was introducing the talk. So what is market segmentation? I'm going to read off the slides here real quick. And this is a really book definition. I don't like book definitions, but I think this is good. Because we have to know what we're talking about. I got to define it. So 2 sections of a market are segmented if price changes in one segment do not cause a corresponding price change in another segment. What does this mean? So if you have 2 customers, one customer is very price sensitive, wants the lowest price. Another customer maybe wants service, right? You can charge that customer different prices, and that difference in pricing is justified because of services or because of, when you go to the store, you buy in bulk. Price per unit is lower, right? I go to the store, I buy just 1 unit of something. It's, 15% higher. Do I get all angry because the price is different? No, I understand that I'm buying in a smaller quantity, I'll pay more. Somebody else buying in a lower quantity or a larger quantity pays less per unit. Right? Pull in your mind yet? Not yet. Okay, good. So that's what market segmentation is. That's an example of market segmentation. So why do we segment the market? So if the market is not uniform, then there are different perceptions of value in the market, and then it is possible to charge different prices to different customers for the same product. The product is the same, but peripheral attributes around the product are different. That's right. Hope they're not neighbors. All right. So here's some examples of segments. There are market channel segments, right? There's service platform segmentation, right? What do I mean by service platform? Could be delivery, further processing. You can help customers cash flow their purchases better. That can be important, especially when I'm buying a half beef or a whole hog, right? There are cultural traditions, right? Halal, I don't know how to pronounce it. Kosher, cabrito. Somebody asked me what cabrito was. I don't even know what it is, but I think it's a Hispanic way of eating or something like that. Organ meat, some cultures eat Orient meat, right? Something we maybe commonly would not try to sell. There are value segmentation, right? So this is a niche, in niche pork, we might think about, some people are concerned about, humanely treated. Some people are concerned about, vegetarian fed. Some people are concerned about, grass fed. That would be maybe more on the beef end of things. Farmer people want, something local. Sometimes people want something that's farmer owned. People have those values. People are willing to pay different prices based on their own values. And again, no market segment type is an island. All these market segments overlap. There are also geographical segments, demographic segments, which is similar to cultural traditions, but it can be based on age. There's a lot of different segments. These are just some examples of segments. Okay. So, the basic question is, do you treat your customer base as the same? And then should you? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of times when in commodity orientations, we're conditioned to treat all of our product as the same. One customer, paying to the packer, whoever our contract. There's a lot of different marketing arrangements in commodity orientations, but oftentimes everything's the same. And maybe there's a marketing grid or something like that, but for the most part, it's very, very standard. So, can I see a show of hands? Are we more interested in marketing directly, or are we interested in marketing into retail or wholesale type venues? Anybody have any preference? Both? Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm time to get to both, but we'll start with selling into retail and wholesale distributors. And when I say retail, I mean grocery stores, something like that. And then when I say wholesale distributors, I mean someone who was maybe buying product and then selling it into restaurants, maybe even selling it furthering it into grocery, something like that. Okay? So just so there's no confusion about what I'm talking about. All right. So, let me go back. Again, bringing to mind that we're looking to understand our customer. What is it that our customers want? And maybe I'll be a little bit more specific. What is a constraint for our customer? What are the constraints for our customer? Accidentally gave it away. So what does a customer want? Oh, value. People want value. So what does that mean? Lower price? Not necessarily. Okay. All right. Generally speaking, a retail and wholesale perception of value is generally cash shelf space. What do we mean by that? When I say cash, what does that mean? Huh? Yeah, we want inventory turns, right? So think about it when if you're a wholesaler or you're a retailer, go into Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee's got this building. That building is a very small fraction of that business, of the expenses for that business, right? Where's all the cash tied up? Employees? They don't pay people that great. Well, some people get paid good. Some people don't get paid as good, but boom. Yeah. It's all tied up in inventory, right? So if I'm paying, for that building, I got tons and tons and tons of cash tied up in everything from diapers to meat, to fruits and vegetables, to, cereal, whatever, whatever you can get at a grocery store, right? Cash is a big deal for them. And there's only so much cash to go around. When I put cash into one product, it means I can't put cash into another product. It's a limiting factor for a retailer. Freeing up cash is very, very important. Okay? The other thing is shelf space. There's only so much shelf space. Get a little dry mouth. Shelf space in a grocery store. Right? Can't stock everything, can I? So cash and shelf space are very, very important. So, how can we find out what's important? So what are they trying to do? What's a grocery store trying to do? Well, what are you trying to do? Trying to make money, right? We're trying to make money. So if I have to invest $1 billion to make $1 million, is that a good investment? No. So we want a return on investment too, right? Okay. And then what else are we trying to do? Cash flow, right? Because if I don't have cash, bank doesn't care, right? They want it now, not tomorrow. Even though I'm profitable, if I don't have it, they're mad, right? Okay. So we're trying to make more money in terms of net income, return on investment, and cash flow. So are they. But what do they need, right? Because there's a reason why they carry inventory, right? They're not stupid. Well, maybe they're stupid, but they're not that stupid, right? They're not stupid at all. They're very smart. There's a reason why they carry inventory. Why do they carry inventory? You can't sell something you don't have. And when you go into a grocery store, what does it need to look like? It needs to look verdant, lush, beautiful, right? You ever go into a grocery store and you see like all the onions picked over? Do you buy one of those? I do, but not a lot of people don't, right? Okay. So they need high availability. Don't have it, can't sell it. And if you talk to a retailer, a lot of them will tell you sales drives everything. They're very, very sales oriented. They want to turn that volume through their store. Sales equals profitability oftentimes for them. So if you want high availability, if strong sales drives profits, then you make more money. Great. Grocery stores can go home. They can go home, right? It's easy. Running the grocery business is easy, right? Now they would disagree, I think. So they also need low inventory, right? Why? Because cash is a problem. You need cash flow. I want to free up as much cash. What do they choose? Either or. Oh, hold more inventory, I have high availability, right? I hold less inventory, I skimp on availability, I don't get the sales that I want, but I have better cash flow. They're choosing back and forth, back and forth. Low inventory equals better return on investment in the retail business. Oftentimes spoilage is a big issue as well, especially in fruits and vegetables, but you also see it in these. Okay? And if you have low inventory, you make more money in terms of net income, return on investment, and cash flow. Making sense so far? Following the logic? Can't have both high availability and low inventory. So this is my customer's constraint if I'm thinking about selling into a grocery, if I'm thinking about selling into retail. And wholesale is very, very similar. Right? It's almost exactly the same. Right? They add value by buying a bunch of products and filling a warehouse full of stuff. Similar to retail. At least from that perspective. Okay? And what are some of the assumptions? High availability requires high inventory. Low inventory puts us at risk of stockouts. High availability results in better sales. Low inventory frees up cash to stock more products. Of course, that will make us all more money. Strong sales equals performance. And then more types of products results in better performance as well, right? So having high availability, also being able to stock a lot of different things. Good. And what about shelf constraint? So I also need to sell a maximum amount of product before expiration, don't I? Right? And I need to devote shelf space to the most profitable products, right? Do you want to sell the losers? Right? Okay. And I need to minimize my loss due to spoilage. So I sell all my product before expiration. I minimize my loss due to spoilage. If I devote my shelf space to my most profitable products, I maximize my profit per shelf. And isn't profit per shelf, isn't that a constraint we talked about? Okay. This causes that. Of course, cannot both move old produce or meat and devote shelf space to profitable products. Right? So what happens in a warehouse if something's about to go bad? Yeah, sales manager. So I used to be a commissioned salesperson, right? Sales manager comes to you, says, hey, we got to move this stuff. Right? And of course, I'm a commissioned salesperson, so what do I say? Okay, fine, whatever. But if I have to lower the price and it comes out of my commission, I'm not going to sell it, right? What am I going to focus on? Stuff that makes me money. So then my sales manager will come over and say, okay, well, I'll mark it down this much, and this is the new basis cost, right? This is the new, purchase cost, and this is the new, and then you can mark it up 15, 20, 30% from there, right? So then I say, okay, I'll go out and sell it. But what's happening to that customer? What happened right there? First, you're taking the salesperson and you're devoting that salesperson to selling a loser, right? Okay? So I'm a constraint, perhaps, right? I have so many salespeople and I'm out there pushing something that's losing the customer money. I'm also just devoting 3 months, 2 months, or 1 month, or whatever the shelf life of that product is, to something that didn't sell. I could have devoted that to something that sold at a higher profit. It's a huge impact. Huge impact for these people. And if you look at grocery stores, oftentimes, well, a good grocery store will maybe make 2% on sales, right? Average, if you look at USDA numbers or research out there, it's 1.4 to 1.8% for grocery stores, oftentimes. Profit over sales. So these are big issues for people. Okay. And then, of course, we have a whole set of assumptions there. And I'm not going to read them all to you. But this is a huge issue. And, of course, remember our own conflict. Of course, there's no way, right? There's absolutely no way to both increase prices and increase sales. But maybe there is, right? Because if we understand what our customer constraints are, then we can begin to understand what actually adds value for our customer. Does a low price really add value? Heard earlier people said no. It's value. So what does value mean, right? I can say, well, why don't you add value? Right? That sounds good. People say it all the time. What does adding value mean? Well, in the case of retailers and distributors, adding value means helping them to decrease inventory. Added value means helping them to maximize their profit per shelf. And how do we do that? So maybe we can justify price increases through spoilage, inventory, profit per shelf, and this is a win-win, right? We can maintain sales, or you can get a price increase and you can still maintain sales, and the customer is oftentimes happy to pay for something like that. Or maybe not happy, but certainly sees the value that's presented properly. Open to doing something like that. So that's great. So now what? What do we do for that? Right? How do we create a win-win scenario in a retail or a wholesale environment? Very competitive environments, by the way, where it's very difficult to make money for any player in that value chain. So if both low inventory and availability are important, then smaller, more frequent deliveries will be valuable to somebody. Smaller or frequent delivery if there's high availability for that customer, right? So it comes with some prerequisites. Prerequisite would be, for one, I have high availability on my end to add that value, right? And it comes with problems too, right? Can I kill, fabricate, deliver on a correct schedule? Can I even do that? More frequent deliveries might cost more. How much more? Oftentimes we're very cost focused. We want to decrease our operating expense. How much more valuable is that to the customer? No spoilage or low spoilage. How much more valuable is that inventory to them? How much more valuable is it to maximize shelf space? Right? To maximize their salesperson's time. It's significant. Will I have the ability to deliver frequently? I already said that. And then it's got to be presented properly, right? It has to be presented properly in a win-win scenario. And I can't get into every aspect of it, but those are some tall orders as well.
So in what you're talking about, that this is kind of on the same concept of manufacturers who just-in-time supply.
Mm-hmm. Similar. Yep. Yep.
So I could add value to my sweet corn if I could guarantee for local IV I can deliver 2 pickup loads every quarter.
Yep.
Fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. Right. Depending on what season it is. There would probably be some ins and outs in that, but yeah, sure. It's very valuable to them. Is there any other problems that we can see? Any other alarm bells? I mean, these are just some problems that I've come across in my own life and what other people have told me as I've given this talk before. That people bring those issues up. We've got some experience out here. Does anybody have any other issues? What are some other problems with delivering in small quantities? Will the customer pay for the added cost? How valuable is that to the customer, right? Some other prerequisites as well. So I talked a little bit about reliability. Do I have the availability to do something like that? Need to sell the offer properly. Also have to have a sufficient breadth of products, right? Am I important to you to a retailer if I have one product? Not really. If I have a suite of products, they're stocking a lot of those products, become more important. How do we expand? How do we help our retailer to expand how much of our products they're stocking? Take away their risk. What's their risk? What are their constraints? Cash and shelf space, that's right. So we can increase the amount in which they're stocking by selling according to shelf space and cash. If I can hold less, if I can help them hold very little inventory with very little risk of spoilage. Wholesalers and retailers who are very conservative, oftentimes, become more open. So for fruits and vegetables, yeah, that could be a hurdle to cross, certainly. But retailers will buy from several different regions. You can get stuff. Stuff comes from Florida, Southeast, California, Arizona. They have a desert down there. I don't know how they grow anything. It's a lot of irrigation. So they're buying from a lot of different places in different seasons, right? So it's much cheaper for them. So if we're going to look at something so we're getting away from meat now, right? So you're asking. Yeah, so something like Dole, for example. So if you ever gone in the grocery store and you've seen about 30 different kinds of lettuce? Has anybody even seen that? You guys do go to grocery stores, don't you? Yes? How many types of bag lettuce are out there? 20? A lot, right? Yeah, they can lose up to about 60% of that. So if you look at culinary herbs, they lose a lot of culinary herbs. High percentages of those. So is it any wonder that they continually ask for a lower price? Because the assumption is, well, I'm going to lose 60%. Right? So for produce, I was reading a paper the other day, and it was 1 in every 7. So they throw away 1 truckload's worth of produce for every 7 truckloads they bring in. I've seen even higher numbers as well on other products. This morning, 54% of store shrink comes from perishables. That includes meat. And it represents like $450,000 a year per store. And of course, that's in an environment where people, if they're really good, are making 2% on sale. How much higher of a price do you think you can charge if you have high availability, very low spoilage, very low inventory? There's a big gap there. There's a big gap even in meat where nobody gets the value. And it's also, if we're talking about niche, of course, then we can think about, well, if I'm a buyer and I know that this is an issue, I'm probably going to be a little bit resistant to a different type of product. So I can get a little bit into marketing through CSA. Is anybody else thinking about marketing through a CSA, a meat buying club? People want to do that? Anybody? No? Yeah, you do? Maybe. Okay. So, again, we can see with customers, again, we have another constraint. So if I'm marketing directly to a customer, we have income constraints, we have cash flow constraints, we have time constraints, right? So is there anything blocking our sales into a CSA segment? Well, we're going to investigate that, right? So, here's a conflict, common conflict for a customer, right? Get a low price, I got to buy in bulk. But to buy in bulk, I must outlay a lot of cash, right? If I'm a customer, I need a good cash flow. Why do I need a good cash flow? Got bills to pay. Got a car payment, house payment, etc., right? Some people got more bills than others, right? Of course, I want a low price. In order to get a low price, if I have a low price, then I can buy other stuff. I can fulfill more needs and wants, right? Sounds pretty obvious. Of course, then I can maximize the value of my purchases. So, here's some assumptions behind this. Are there ways to, and the question behind this then is, are there ways to both give customers a good cash flow and also give them some of that, also give them that good price, right? Give them the price they want. Oftentimes selling direct or whole hogs, whole beef, oftentimes that can be pretty competitive on price. If you would compare the same types of cuts to the supermarket, it would be more value. Right? It would be lower in price, right? Generally speaking. Of course, then people are interested in their time commitment. Maybe I want to live my values. Maybe I want to buy local. Maybe I want to buy from a family farm nearby. What do I have to do? Well, so I live my values. I feel good. Maximize the value of my purchase. But I need convenience, right? So my mom, there's a lot of kids in my family, right? So my mom doesn't want to make another trip to the store, right? Right? So she needs to maximize her time. She can't both. At least it's set up so that, we can't both live our values and we can't both have convenience in our shopping, right? Because in order to maybe buy a whole or a half hog, I have to drive somewhere to pick it up. I have to, maybe I have to, I'm living in the city, I have to figure out someone to process it, or I have to sign 2 checks to get it processed, if it's a custom lock or something like that, right? Maybe it takes me more time. Okay? Assumptions there. So, if cash is a constraint for my customer, then I could allow a cash flow option. The cash flow option opens more markets for me, and maybe I can charge more for that service, right? So what would a cash flow option look like? Well, a cash flow option could look something like we let people pay piecemeal for a product. Any problems with that?
You're holding on to the inventory.
I'm holding on to the inventory. That could be a problem. What else? So when I say piecemeal, I mean just pay for it little by little. So I'm holding on to the inventory, that's one problem. Maybe I get stiffed midway through. It's a requirement that if I'm marketing directly, I have to sell the whole hog. Am I going to get stiffed midway through? Right? So that could be a problem, right? We'll have to chase checks. Who's got time for that? Customers back out halfway through the season. It's the stiffing one. Certainly that's a way to charge more for the service. It's a way of segmenting the market. Can we save time for people? If customers are time sensitive, then service offers that save consumers time are valuable. And if that's true, then delivery might be a good option. And a delivery option could be a source of income. A lot of people do that. Meat processors and I would do it. Not all of them. A few of them that I've worked with do. What's that? Is that a refrigerated vehicle? It's a bigger expense? Yeah. So it can take too much time or labor. Delivery will cost too much. You call it. Yep. Who's got time for that? Okay. Those are things to get around. People do get around it. Can be very effective. Can be a very easy way to charge extra money, especially if we split something up over a period of time. Got a head shake down there? Anybody? Anybody disagree with that? All right. So what does all this mean? There are a lot of consumers. They're all different. Well, want cash flow options. People will have inventory problems. People want smaller deliveries. What else does it mean? It takes very little increases in sales or throughput to increase the bottom line. If I can find a few customers that want a cash flow option, that could put a lot of extra money in my pocket, especially if I can figure an easy way or figure a creative way around chasing checks and getting paid, to charge more for the exact same hog. Right? So the question is, are you working to figure out customers' problems, needs, wants? And then, of course, if you know what some of the differences are, do you charge them accordingly? So am I out asking a lot of questions? So, I'd be out asking questions, figuring out what people want.
No, segment what you first.
You want me to segment it for you? Okay. So, I look at people like, so people like my mom, for example. I love her. God bless her, but she's pretty cheap, right? So, I'd find out, so what, there's a certain segment of the population that, literally brings a watch calculator to the grocery store and calculates the ounces. That's what my mom does. It's very embarrassing when you're at the grocery store with your mom, and you're a teenager, just calculating the ounces, see a girl you like. Your mom's got this calculator that's as big as your head arm. So there's customers like that, right? Then there's also, true believers, right? So there's people who love local or love humane or love niche breeds, and they're willing to pay anything. They're willing to go out of their way, right, to buy, whatever it takes. They're willing to do what it takes to buy a half hog, say, right? And then there's the other 90% of the population, or there's everybody else, a big chunk of the population, who's too busy, right? Or it's so much money up front. I really like it. I like the product. I'll do it next year. Right? I'd buy a half hog, but I don't want to put all that money out right now. I like the price. It's a pretty good price. The quality's pretty good. Okay. Next year. All right. So why is that customer resistant to buying? Not usually. especially when you're buying meat like that, it's not always a question of price, certainly, right? So the question is the market only the true believers? You know, that little section of people, or are there other people who are willing to pay for a certain value proposition, right? And there's people like, again, like my mom. I'll give you my mom. You know, brother's playing baseball. Brother got hit in the head with a baseball, needs to go to the doctor. Got another brother who's a boxer, needs to go to the doctor too. You know, that kind of thing, right? So they got, you know, she's got a bunch of sons. They're all idiots. They eat her out of house and home, right? And she wanted to take another extra trip to buy, you know, to meet. That's one more thing to remember for her. One more thing to remember. Gotta go make an extra trip. Oh, you know, I don't have time to make an extra trip. I already go to the grocery store. And they want me to pay so much for it up front. Next year. I'll do it next year. It's a good price, but next year. Right? I mean, those are big constraints for me. Just talking to my owner. Right? And he knows that I'm interested in niche, and, you know, he doesn't really know what I'm interested in, but he thinks he knows what I'm interested in. And he's like, oh yeah, I was going to buy grass-fed beef from a local, some people don't like grass-fed beef, but I'm going to buy grass-fed beef from a local farmer. Oh yeah, grass-fed beef. So we got a bunch of people together, and we're going to buy this grass-fed beef. Everybody but him backed out. I said, oh, well, why'd everybody back out? He said, oh, well, you know, it's a lot of money up front. It's a lot of money up front. Okay. So is there a way to make it so it's not a lot of money up front next year, right? Because next year is going to be forever, right? So those are the things that I'd be looking at. And I'd really distill it down to the most simple things. What are the constraints for my customers? If I know those are my constraints, right, then I know where to focus, and I can figure something out to solve some of those constraints. Right? You can't make everybody happy, but if it's just going to be to, you know, the 1% of true believers out there who really want grass-fed beef or whatever, or a different type of breed of hog or something like that, then, you know, then it's just going to be 1%, and everybody can slug it out for that 1%. But a lot of people eat meat.